Hey guys, Tammy here, and in this video, we're going to talk about being transparent with your children. Now, this is a huge value for a lot of parents. A lot of parents have totally transparent relationship with their children, around the things obviously that affect the children. And so they really want to be able to talk openly with the children about issues that come up. But this can really get you in hot water sometimes. And I'm still amazed at the number of people that I talk to that really have no idea that this could even remotely be problematic. Let me just remind you, if you like this content, don't forget to hit like on the video. Also subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. And about 70% of you watching this are not subscribed. So if you are one of those, please make sure you do as I requested and go over and subscribe. As always, feel free to share it on social media. When we are being transparent with our children, I think this becomes more problematic as they get older because they're more aware, they ask more questions, they know more of what's going on. And so we feel the need to be totally open and honest with them. And let's face it, honesty and trust is the foundation of any good relationship, right? And we want to instill that in our children. We want to instill in them that they be honest, that they be trustworthy. And so how do you instill things in your children? Well, by modeling it, right? So we're trying to model that honesty and that trust. And many of us do that through being transparent with the children. The problem is that when you have the court involved, that judge becomes like a super parent. And the way the judge views transparency around certain issues is they consider that oversharing, putting the children in the middle, parentifying the children, sometimes alienating the other parent. There can be all kinds of ways that they view this negatively. And I think most of us don't see it that way. But like, your children should never know what's going on in the court for your case. You should never talk to them about it. You should never discuss it. And even if they're older, 14, 15, 16, 17, they should not be aware of it. The court really hates involving the children. I have people that ask, oh, should I take the kid to court so they can talk to the judge? No, not unless the judge decides that you should do that. You don't just show up with your kid there. If the court decides they want to talk to your child, they will have you bring the child in, usually on the next date or whatever, and they will take them into chambers and do that. Now, I can tell you in San Diego, where I am, I rarely see a judge do that. The way it's usually handled in our county is we kind of have a social worker arm of the court that deals with custody issues, and they'll have that social worker interview the child in kind of more a therapeutic setting. And not a courtroom. And then that person will give input. Or they will, if the child has a therapist, they'll maybe talk to the therapist or things like that. But very rarely does the court appreciate you showing up with one of your children for them to testify. And honestly, they don't even like it if it's like your child from a previous relationship that maybe the other person isn't their parent or whatever. If that child's under the age of 18, they still will really shy away from that. Now, if the child's over 18, I've seen them allow it, but they don't love it. They're not thrilled with it. But really, we just shouldn't be talking to the kids about this in general. And I know that what you say is like, oh, well, I didn't tell them, the other parent told them, and then they started asking me questions. And what you have to do is shut that down. And I know that can feel bad, but the last thing that you want to do is be accused of involving the child or trying to sway them one direction or the other. And if both parents are doing it, then it kind of becomes, well, the court's like, I don't like this from either parent. We're going to order them to co-parenting counseling. We're going to order them to therapy. We're going to order them to some kind of thing that tells them that this is not a good thing to do with their kids, that this is damaging. But if you can let the other side do it and you don't do it, then you start to get leverage. Then you start to show the court that you're the person that considers the child's interests, and you don't try to pit them in the middle between you and the other parent. because that's how the court sees it if you're talking to them about things that involve the court. I also think that a lot of times what happens is when the child does come with questions, people will say to me, well, the child's asking me questions. What do I say? Well, you have to say, you know what? That's not for you to worry about. That's between me and your other parent. That's between me and your mom. That's between me and your dad. You don't need to worry about that. We'll work that out. Even if that's not true, even if you're telling me like there's so much conflict, there's no way we would ever work this out, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's the message that you need to send to the child. And part of the reason is when the child is caught between you, no matter how fractured their relationship with the other parent is, my experience is every child loves both parents or wants the approval of both parents or whatever. And they may not like the way the other parent treats them sometimes or whatever, but they still love that parent. And when they are put in that position, what happens is they will develop anxiety. And I see this start a lot with kids that are about 8, 9, usually through about 12, 13. They will really struggle with anxiety because they're caught between the two parents and they don't know. It's like, I don't like the way this person treats me, but I don't want to be ratting them out to the other parent. And I am aware at this point, my parents don't really get along, don't like each other, like, all those kinds of things. And so really indulging in talking to your kids about the situation can actually manifest anxiety for them. And I know that's the last thing we want. So it's sort of like picking and choosing your battles. It's like, okay, do you not have full transparency on that particular issue? Yeah, because it's an adult issue. It's not a child appropriate issue, and it's going to cause stress on your child. And they've done all kinds of studies, particularly with teenagers around these issues and how those behaviors affected them when they were younger, their parents talking to them or putting them in the middle or whatever. The parents sometimes didn't even realize that they were doing that. That wasn't their intent. Their intent was only to have this open, honest discussion with the child about what was happening. But the child doesn't have the cognitive level that we have as adults. Even at 15, 16 years old, children's brains don't fully develop into adult brains until the age of 25 is when our brains stop developing. So even at 15, 16, they may have some more understanding than they would at 10 or 11, but they don't have an adult level, our level of understanding. And so it still creates confusion and chaos for them. So we have to be really, really careful that we're not discussing that stuff with them. The other thing that it does is, I kind of found with my stepchildren that what we essentially had to do was not discuss anything in front of them that we didn't want their mom to know. Because one, I don't want them to feel like they have to keep secrets, right? That's worse than them just not knowing. And I didn't want them to be grilled or questioned by mom. And if they don't know, they can't be grilled, right? So just things that are kind of more private in your world that maybe you would prefer the other parent not know. Really, you have to just not talk to your kids about that. You can't expect your kid to flow between those two worlds and expect them to keep secrets, essentially, is what you're asking them to do. Again, that manifests anxiety and all kinds of other issues. So while there are pros to being transparent, there are many cons, the biggest of which is the court's perspective on this. And really, whether you agree with what I'm saying or not is not really the point. The point is that this is how the court is going to look at it. That's the system you're in. That's the system you're going to be judged on. And that's what you have to deal with. So honestly, and I will tell you that again, all the studies bear out that this is emotionally what happens for children when they're put in these positions. Okay. So try to keep that in mind and not be openly discussing things, even with your teenagers, not your little ones either, but I know it's probably more problematic with teenagers. If you'd like help learning more about this stuff, like we don't know what we don't know, right? I mean, how do you know? You've always had this transparent relationship with your kid. How do you know not to talk to them about it? I made that mistake in the beginning. My son was 15. I had always shared pretty much everything with my child. He and I are very close. We're still very close. He's 34. He runs my YouTube channel, and I overshared with him, and it caused problems. It caused problems for him. It caused problems in his relationship with his dad. Create a lot of chaos in his life that wasn't my goal. That wasn't what I was trying to do. But unfortunately, that was the result of it. So again, we don't know what we don't know. If you'd like to learn more about how I can help you and help you understand these things, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's a link on that page where you can learn more information about my programs, my group programs, my one-on-ones, figure out what might be a good fit for you. And I will see you guys next time.